Okay, we'll go ahead and at this time, I'll call the meeting to order of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners today, April 5th, 2022. First item of business today is a proclamation, and we have here before us a proclamation declaring April 2022 Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'll read the proclamation here for the board. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month is intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health implications for every community member of Jackson County. And whereas rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment impact our community as seen by the number of Jackson County survivors seeking assistance from their assaults and national statistics indicating that 1 in 5 women will have experienced sexual assault by the time they complete college. And whereas the County of Jackson is committed to educating our community about what can be done to prevent sexual assault and how to support survivors. And whereas staff and volunteers of anti-violence programs in Jackson County encourage every person to speak out when witnessing acts of violence, however small. And whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing sexual violence in Jackson County through prevention education, increased awareness, and holding perpetrators who commit acts of violence responsible for their actions. And whereas Jackson County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts, including conversations about what sexual violence is, how to prevent it, how to help survivors connect with services, and how every segment of our society can work together to better address sexual violence. Now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month throughout this county and urges all the people of Jackson County to learn about sexual assault and commit themselves to the community goal of ensuring that everyone in Jackson County can live their life free of sexual violence. What would be the pleasure of the board concerning this proclamation?
I move that we accept this proclamation as presented.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Very good. And we do have with us Mr. Wesley Myers, the Center for Domestic Peace Director. And if you want to come forward, we'll give you a copy of the proclamation. You want a photo?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right.
Social media.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Wesley, would you like to also, after this, say, be glad to give you an opportunity to speak and say a few words?
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Come on, board member in there with you.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. And, you know, I was going to say how we appreciate the fact that our county attorney, Heather, serves on this board and
Yes.
supports the efforts in our community.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Here's some exciting news about community.
Always. I try to stay excited.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. I just, want to make it very clear how incredibly happy Center for Domestic Peace is to be in the community and have all the support that we have through this proclamation and through all the things that the county has done for us in the past. We are very excited to announce we will be taking on sexual assault services as the primary provider beginning in July of this year, taking over for Reach of Macon County, who's provided those services for over a decade now. So we will be the ones receiving the state funds and the county funds to provide those services. And we're incredibly grateful. When I took my job 2 years ago, I had no clue we would be at this point. At this date, so this is huge leaps and bounds forward for the county and for all the survivors that we get to serve. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep, appreciate it.
Next is the approval of our agenda. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion that we approve the agenda as presented?
I move we do so.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed nay. The ayes have it. Next is the approval of the minutes. I have a host of minutes as prepared by our clerk in advance. That's the work session minutes from March the 8th, our reconvened regular meeting from March the 8th, the reconvened regular meeting from March the 9th, the special budget work session from March the 10th, and then a regular meeting on March 15th. After having a chance to review those as distributed, what's the pleasure of the board?
I say we make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is administrative reports. And I'm going to share one thing, and this is by way of Commissioner Woody. If you'll indulge me for just a few moments and bear with me, I want to read a press release to make you aware of an opportunity to give back to the community, to help with a scholarship that has been created. And this is in honor of Coach Dan Robinson Endowed Scholarship. And efforts are underway to create an endowed scholarship to honor the life and legacy of Dan Robinson, a World War II veteran, a former head football coach at Western Carolina University, former Jackson County manager, also was chairman of the County Board of Commissioners here for Jackson, served as a North Carolina state senator and a wildlife resource commissioner, and advocated tirelessly on behalf of Western North Carolina. So several former students, athletes who played football for Coach Robinson in the 1960s are spearheading the campaign to create the endowed scholarship that will provide educational financial assistance for Western North Carolina's high school football players, with preference given to student athletes from Robinson's 7-county state senatorial district, which includes Cherokee, Clay, Graham, Haywood, Jackson, Macon, and Swain. Robinson passed away on February the 11th, 2022, this year, at age 95. He was a native of McDowell County, North Carolina, and at age 18 served the United States Navy and participated in the Normandy invasion. After World War II, he was enrolled at Western Carolina and was an all-star lineman that helped the Catamounts win the 1949 North State Conference Championship. He became Western Carolina's head football coach in 1956 and served in that role for 13 seasons, in which he aided in the development of hundreds of public school teachers, coaches, and administrators, successful businessmen, and government leaders. Following his retirement from coaching, he became a well-known, highly respected public servant as Jackson County manager, North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commissioner, 2-term state senator for District 56, and was a funding advocate for WCU for 7 counties in his district. Contributions in support of Coach Dan Robinson Scholarship can be made by credit card through WCU's Catamount Club, or checks can be made out to the WCU Foundation specifying the Robinson Endowment in the memo line. And so if you would like to have any of those points of contact, we have some telephone numbers, email addresses, as well as mailing addresses where these can be sent to and care of this endowment fund. But it's a great and worthy cause, and encourage everyone to contribute to that. And I appreciate Commissioner Woody sharing that with us. And Commissioner Dietz, you probably knew him better than any of us.
I didn't want to know him.
Yeah.
Dan Robinson was a fine man, and he is a man's man. And he had a tough demeanor about him. That 49 championship, it's hard to believe, David, that's the last championship Western Carolina's won in football. 49.
Is it
The year I was born. But Coach Robinson, I thought a lot of him. There's some things as you get older and you have teachers and coaches, some of the things that means most to you is something like when I was coaching, we'd win a big game or something, and the phone would ring on Saturday morning, and it'd be Coach Robinson. I never did call him Dan. And he said, I just want to call him in and tell you I was proud of you. Your team last night, and how well you done. I knew that's going to be tough, but I just thought maybe y'all would get to him. And he probably knew that meant a lot to me, but he doesn't know how much that meant to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he was, it's someone that taught you, you wonder if you could come up to their expectations,
Absolutely.
and he thought I did, so.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Absolutely. Great
Wonderful.
words. Great words. I remember the day that I was a county employee when he became county manager, chairman of the board. And I remember the day that he was sworn in, and I worked in the economic development office, and which at that time was right next door to the county manager's office. And being there and celebrating with him that new position and all the heartache and troubles and trials and victories and everything else that came with it over the years, as we well know. But a great public servant. All right. Commissioner Striblin, we'll start with you on the commissioner reports. Anything to report today?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Jones?
No report tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Woody? We know you have a report.
Well, actually, I do. I have the privilege of representing the 7 western counties for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And we had our board meeting this last weekend, and it was in Beaufort, North Carolina. And so it was a long trip, but it was probably one of the best meetings that I've attended. And one of the things that there's a focus on was emergency preparedness, and that is a theme for this year for the association. And they had 2 individuals from California that came and spoke, but the biggest issue, it made me so thankful for Todd Dillard and his staff and how our emergency management team works together so well. We are so fortunate. And because of the wildfires that have just recently happened in our community, we know that it's very important. And of course, along the coast with storms. But then, we had one in Haywood County just this last year. So just being aware, being able to have our citizens be notified, be safe, and then the way that they serve, it was very important. And then the second thing, there was a lot about the opioid settlement and some ways that counties can hopefully address this very grave concern in our community. I know we've talked about it. Commissioner Stribling, that's one of your big concerns. And Commissioner Dietz and I attended the Southwest Commission meeting Monday. And Monday night, were you going to say that? Oh, well, one of the people, I'm sorry, there were 2 things. Okay. There were 2 people there that spoke about programs that they're doing in the 7 western counties. And I would like us to consider inviting those individuals. One is the mayor of Murphy. They're right now working successfully with a homeless shelter, which always intersects with substance use and abuse. And so I talked to him, and I think they have a very similar vision to what we're thinking about. And he said he'd be willing to come and talk to us. And then Commissioner Ronnie Beal from Macon County, they have a program that they started with $14,000 called No Closed Doors, and it's directly addressing drug um, abuse and misuse and the opioid crisis. And now they have a budget of, I think he said 44,000, something like that. They're donations that are coming in, and it's being very successful as well. So if, at some point when we're ready to discuss those things, I think it would be great to have those people come in. A lot of times when we go to those meetings, the people that are sharing their programs are from Charlotte or Durham, some of the more populated areas, and it's really good to hear some of the rural areas and what they're doing and the effective way, because it's very different for us than it is for those other places.
Very good. And all jokes aside, I know we kid you about your reports, but we very much appreciate you're very active as a commissioner, and you travel to a lot of meetings and represent our board and represent this county, and we very much appreciate the hard work you put in
Well,
for
thank
being a
you.
voice for this county.
It is an honor for me, and I'm always so proud of Jackson County and being able to represent us. Thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Deets.
Isn't that on the coast where you went?
Yes,
Say you enjoyed it?
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, but I was in meetings while my husband played golf.
Bill and I went down to Harris this past Monday, and to the Region A meeting, and it was real good. I rode down with Gail and her husband. He parked at the head circle, and we walked. Pretty far. No, that meeting was really good, and
It's true.
Mr. Harris, what's his first name?
Russ,
Russ Harris,
Yes.
who is
the new director.
director. He is so good, and he's doing so good.
Oh,
And
yes.
he's such a good speaker, and you can tell he's got his heart in that job. And I think sometimes we may forget about how important that Southwestern Regional Development, I still call it, is. Because they're doing a lot, there's a lot of money coming through there, and they're helping a lot of folks. Enjoyed the meeting, that's far I'll go.
Good, very good. Next, we're going to have our county manager's report, and I think he, as he normally does, has a list of topics that he's going to cover, but I was unable to attend the other day the VIA Health Regional Board meeting. I think Mr. Adams is also going to highlight what took place there and maybe a request that is being made to us potentially to support an endeavor that took place during that meeting in which he represented Jackson County at. So, Mr. Adams, I'll let you give your report now.
Yes, sir. First item is our monthly report in regards to zoning and building permits. As you can see, the planning department issued one renovation addition permit in the month of February, and code enforcement issued one commercial and one renovation addition permit in the month of February. And speaking of Region A, or Southwestern Rural Planning Organization, we do have under Southwestern COG, we do have our RPO, our Rural Planning Organization. And one of our members gave me an update. Mike Poston, our planning director, is very active on that board, and our chairman is active on that board also. And I thought this would be of interest to the board. Let me scroll down to to Mike's summary that he provided to me. Just letting the board know that the Skyland Road Sidewalk Project, the let date is shown to be April 26, 2022. So, make sure he heard that.
Yeah, you might want,
I just want to make sure you heard this, that the let date on,
Sorry,
oh,
very rude to you, I'm sorry.
oh, you're fine. This one's for, it's the sidewalks on Skyland Drive. It's due to, be let here in, April 26th.
That's great.
Yeah, and so, the other items on there is R 5600, let date still remains July 2024. They're currently in right-of-way acquisition. Let date and let date means they're going out to bid for the project, just for everybody's knowledge. For Monteith Gap Road project, that's the project that the county ended up selling right-of-way and easements to DOT in regards to building up a roundabout. That project is let date for it is July 2022. 3 bridge replacements are set to let in 2022. And behind this email is details. So you just go back and review it. If you got any questions, let us know. The Monteith Gap Road Bridge was let in late February. So that one has already been let out and they're accepting bids on that. So they are moving pretty quick on the Monteith Gap Road project. The other document that Mr. Poston provided to us was highlights current construction projects, and R 4753, that's NC 107, roughly East LaPorte to NC 281. It's about 70% complete. There is no estimate on date of completion. Resurfacing project on US 64 from Transylvania County line to State Road 1120 is 72% complete. And resurfacing project along NC 107 from Powerhouse to Grassy Creek Road, no progress at this time. The last item that Mr. Poston gave us information on is there will eventually a set of data information will come back before this board. As you can see, basically NCDOT is developing a rural travel demand model. They're requesting that assistance from the county and RPO to verify the data sets. They will use census data, comprehensive plan data, school enrollment data, and employment data to create a model. They're asking local partners to assist, and eventually this information will come back for the Board of Commissioners for explanation and eventual adoption. But he was just letting us know that there's a new model out there. So I just thought that was some interesting information for the board to have in regards to some DOT projects that are going on. Next item is construction projects. Animal Rescue Center. Animal Rescue Center is approximately 70% complete. Retaining walls are complete. Grading contractor has started. We're still working on walking paths and storm sewer. Finally, did get started on storm sewer. It's about halfway through with storm sewer. The metal building frame and roof is complete. Interior block walls, the stud walls are up. They're basically currently working on all the interior electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. And staff currently right now has finalized the list of equipment. It's not just furniture, it's also animal equipment to be purchased, and so we'll look to purchase that here soon. I also included in the picture, I just wanted everybody to see, this is actually up on top of the closed landfill, and you can see what we've done is the contractor agreed, they felt like for the same price, they could come back and actually pour sidewalks versus the dust. And so just wanted to show you where the sidewalk, you can see it's formed here. They're getting ready to pour up there. Also wanted to show you the interesting view that you have up there. It's, it is a quarry and
It's pretty though.
it's so, I think Tim Muth was saying you could have a geology class up there. You literally can sit there and when you stand up there, essentially you can see the layers of rock and it's just a different view. It's an interesting view, and I truly think people will enjoy that. It's something you don't see every day.
well, and two, I think we have to keep in mind that what we can't see in this picture is all the wildflower beds that may be planted in the area around. or the sculpture gardens, the art that's there. The other things that may also catch your attention as you're walking this path that have yet to be.
That's absolutely true.
How wide's that walkway?
How wide? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I'd say if that looks like a 2x4 there, don't it? 8 foot 2x4 maybe, laying across that section there. So you know, it looks to me like it's almost 6 foot,
I was gonna say 5 or 6.
5 or
yeah.
6 foot at
Yeah.
least. Something.
Next item is in regards to the Fairview concessions, and I'll come back with the exact width of that.
That's all right.
Yep, yep. Is the Fairview press box concession restroom. Basically, they do have the facility standing now. They have the siding on, the roofing on. They've gotten the majority of the electrical and plumbing rough end done. They're going to be starting on the finish work, sheetrock next week, things of that nature. So in the next month, they'll be working on the finish. If you see here, it says the facility should be used by the end of June. They are shooting for quicker than that, but I told them I wouldn't commit them anything less than what their contract says, which is on schedule.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Next item,
That was Owl Construction?
yes.
Yes.
So everything, we talked about before, all the underground water issues have been taken care of. Everything's been taken care of. We also do have the storage containers on site. They're actually sitting in the parking lot right now, but eventually they will be moved to the left of the batting cage, about where I'm pointing here. And remember, that's storage for the nonprofit. It's for the leagues to go out there and store their equipment and so forth. Next item is
I did have one question. Who will have, I don't know if this is the right word, authority over this building?
it's recreation department. Our
Okay.
current lease is
Okay.
the schools. Currently, the schools have first right of use of the facility,
Okay,
meaning because it's school property.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
there's currently a lease with
Okay.
the recreation department for Little League and things of that nature.
yes, okay.
I'm not going to go back to the summary. I'll just talk about the summary and just go to this attachment. The indoor pool construction documents are almost complete. The plans have been sent to the Department of Insurance. Just had a meeting today with Tony Elder for code enforcement, and also with John Genlisky with the planning department. We will be taking this issue before the Colway Planning Council in May. Ultimately, we're trying to get any feedback from our local code enforcement and also planning office to make any final changes to the plan before we go out to bid, and also while we're out to bid. We are currently out. We're going through a pre-qualification process for general contractors. This is a large, complicated project. And so we do need to make sure that the contractors who bid on this project are qualified to bid on this contract. Now, this is for general contractors who have the ability to bid the entire contract. This is not for subs and things of that nature. Ultimately, if you look at the pre-qualification process, it's going through evaluating their ability to bond, when I mean bond, to do performance bonds and things of that nature, evaluating their experience in this type of work in order to pre-qualify them to make sure that they're big enough, large enough, and have the ability to build this facility. Now, we will have a pre-construction meeting, and that's when we can invite subs, because it's to the benefit of a general contractor to have access to local subcontractors when they're putting together their bids for a project like this. And so ultimately, we will have a concerted effort to try to make sure we link, give access to subs to the general contractors who will bid to this. We've done this on every project that I've been involved with so that we can hopefully get local contractors, subcontractors, the ability to at least put in a sub bid to a project such as this. Details, I have put the pre-qualification ad. This has been advertised, and it's going to be in local newspapers. It's going to be in regional newspapers. We also put it on state websites for historically underutilized businesses and things of that nature. Obviously, we're trying to get as many general contractors interested. In this advertisement, it does give details on how a contractor can participate in this process and get pre-qualified in order for them to bid. Anticipated bid. Now, this is for the pre-qualification process. Um, I'm going to get it off the screen so we don't confuse the pre-qualification process to the actual bid process. Once contractors have been pre-qualified, then they will be able to submit a bid, which currently anticipated bid opening will be June 2nd, 2022. This requires the county to move forward with the bonding and borrowing process. So what I've done is I've included in your package too is just the timeline of what has to occur in order for us to proceed forward with the bonding. Um, since I can't see it on the screen, I will have to turn to this in my packet. So as you can see, April 18th is when information is due to the LGC, and your excellent finance officer has actually completed the majority of this information already. I believe for the most part that timeline has been met at this point. April 26th, we will be having a meeting. It's a credit presentation review. We talked about why are we hiring this consulting firm. Well, this is really the crux of why we're hiring this consulting firm. Ultimately, you can see 27th, the local government commission goes forward with the first draft of the information that's been put together by our finance officer. You can see May 4th, we have a due diligence conference call with what we're calling the working group, which is everybody that's involved in this process. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to the next page. You can see the week of May 9th or May 16th, that's the rating agency calls. That is the call where we're going to be presenting information to our rating agencies. These are agencies that provide a bond rating or rating for our county. And the higher the rating, the better interest rate, the better when we sell the bonds, the better we will do what's equivalent to an interest rate to those bonds themselves. And so you can see June 7th is actually when we're proposing to bring information back to this board to adopt. Now, that will be soon after the bid opening. Okay. So, if the bids come in as what's been previously shown to this board, if you recall, it's approximately a $20 million bonds, and it's anticipated that we may have to cash this project in about $2 million, if you recall that. As long as we're in the realm of that, we should be able to proceed forward on June 7th, and this is when we will be looking for a resolution to be passed by this board. And then you can see there are just more steps to take place until we look to sell the bonds on June 28th. And then you can see we would get closing on the bonds in July 28th. In that same time period, assuming that the bids come in and we're within budget, we will end up going through a notice of award process with whoever the low bid contractor will be. And eventually there would be a contract that would come back for this board for approval to proceed forward with this process. So, all right. So, let me go back up to my summary. Bear with me. Apologize. And so finally, Jackson County, as everybody recalls, Jackson County has received $2,111,497.50 from Dogwood Health Trust to match county funds to build a domestic violence shelter. That is the amount for the domestic violence shelter. So that this does not include the 62,500 that's for the homeless planning, either on Dogwood or our side. These are the actual domestic violence shelter dollars. The county has received these funds, so Dogwood has already given the funds to the county. Um, so the total project budget for this project is $4,223,995. We have gone through the legally required qualification process to select an architect. The selected architect firm is Clark Nixon. The next steps in this process is for Clark Nixon to develop a proposed contract for services. Once this is complete, this will come back before the board for approval. And Wes from here, Wes is still in here. And so what that'll do is once we get past that stage, that'll pull the trigger for the architect firm to start working with not only county staff, but working with Center for Domestic Peace staff and their board of directors to start in the full design process. We have to go through a design process first before you get into construction documents and so forth. So we'll end up going through probably about a 6 to 8 month planning process, design process. You'll probably go through about another 6 to 8 month construction document process. So it'll be probably a little over a year before we're in a position to actually go out to bid for this project.
Mr. Adams, the first 6 months, is that the study, is that part of programming too? Is that part?
Excuse me one second. So, talking about the programming dollars that we talked about, the design and programming, yeah, it's part of the architect. This is a little bit different than the homeless shelter. We don't have to go through. The homeless shelter conversation really is when you start talking about programming and planning, you're really trying to design, make decisions on how it's going to operate, how it's going to be funded, how is it going to be staffed and manned, and things of that nature. Those questions, you heard Wesley talk to you. Those questions, they're not as open-ended as a homeless shelter. There's already state funding that's going to be available. By the time we get this facility hopefully constructed, we will be in a position in the Center for Domestic Peace, if you recall, they're going to be able to qualify for additional funds to help provide operational support to this facility itself. So we will go, this design is not so much as, there'll be a programming component to it, but it's really more of a design conversation than it is a programming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm trying to make, they're really two different conversations. There's a lot of knowns with the domestic violence shelter that we just don't know with the homeless shelter conversation. And then finally, not on this report here, but the chairman had mentioned I did attend our Via Health Region 1 board meeting on March 28th. I have provided a copy that was provided by Via Health of what they call talking points. And so ultimately, I'm not going to go through and read this, but in essence, if you look at the background section of what I've handed out to everyone, you can see that the state, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, they've come out with a policy paper in which they're looking to change basically how mental health services are potentially provided to children, specifically children that are going through our social programs, like through social services and things of that nature. And what they're looking to do is to consolidate. It's on its face, it sounds like a good concept. Everybody's heard about when you start looking at Medicaid. The state has gone down the route of privatizing Medicaid. Well, what the state is doing is they're attempting to look at this, what they're calling holistically, and they're wanting to come up with a single provider, a statewide provider, that would holistically look at a child's health and welfare. So that's the basic concept. So the idea being is it's the same administrator would not only provide oversight for medical care, but provide oversight for mental health wellness to this child. And like I say, on its face, that sounds reasonable, but But what it really doesn't take into consideration is the infrastructure that's already in place through Via Health and through partnerships built through Via Health, through our mental health services, all the way down to our partners with DSS and other social services programs. And so what has occurred is it's gotten all the LMOs and MCOs similar to Via Health. They're all extremely concerned about this. So are a lot of social services operations. So, for example, Chris Weatherford, our social services director, has concerns about this. And in essence, where the concerns really lie is that everybody's concerned that if this switches over to a single statewide provider, then when you're trying to deal with a social issue with a child, when you're trying to get a child some type of mental health services, a young juvenile substance abuse services, you're trying to get family counseling, all the issues from a mental health services standpoint that a family needs to go through, child and family, when you're dealing with social programs. They're concerned that if it goes statewide, then we're going to be dealing with administrators that are not from this area. Okay. And what would have to happen is the connections, the partnerships, meaning right now, if Chris Weatherford needed to call somebody, he could call. He has contacts at Via Health. Those connections, all of those would have to be rebuilt. And there's just real concern on whether or not it truly could be rebuilt, and concerns whether or not the service would be adequate and provided to the kids. So what is being asked is the counties, DSS directors, and others are being asked to write a letter to the Secretary of Health, Human Services, also to our legislators, basically to, in essence, pause this process and allow our LMOs and MCOs, LMEs and MCOs to come in and have some input on how these services are going to be delivered eventually to children, especially from a mental health perspective. And so what they're asking is, and this is where I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, is that chairman of county commissioners, DSS directors, so forth, write a letter basically asking the state to, it is opposing how they're proceeding forward, but also asking them to pause and to basically try to look at this a little bit more holistically. Um, Another way to look at it is our LME is asking for a tailored plan. Um, there may be ways that we can accomplish what the state is trying to accomplish, but allowing for our existing infrastructure to not be wasted.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, and I had a conversation with Shelley Foreman today, who is our local liaison with VIA. And Shelley and I talked about this, and I wanted Don, since he was more knowledgeable and was able to attend that meeting, to speak to this tonight, and also to reach out to Chris Weatherford, our DSS director, and to follow up with Chris, making sure, 'cause we want to advocate for what's best for Jackson County. And that may not be the case. Other counties may like the way this is going, but our job is to advocate for what's best for Jackson County. And it's our belief, and correct me if I'm wrong, Don, it's our belief that we do think that there's need for pause,
correct.
and that our DSS director, our county manager, those that are in this business who see the impacts that could be had here locally, say we need to put the pause on this, and let's ask the state to revisit this issue. So I wanted that to be brought before the board tonight in light of this request that came today for a letter of support. And if y'all so agreed, then I would have the manager draft a letter, and we would execute that letter, and I'd sign it and send it to these appropriate agencies.
I'm very much in support of that. And at the state meeting, that was brought up as a concern for all counties, and not just the rural counties, although we tend to recognize it would have a greater impact because we have less providers in rural areas. But even in the more populous areas, and the big concern was exactly what Mr. Adams was mentioning, is that it takes out of local control and puts it in the hand of state, a big bureaucracy, and we know that that really causes difficulties when it gets down to direct service. And so as the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, they were encouraging us to do this very thing and also to write to our legislators, not just the department. I think you mentioned that, because those will be the people that make the ultimate decision. But and I think, we all know that county commissioners we're constantly, we appreciate what the state does on many levels, but when they take away opportunities that help us serve our people best, then it's a concern.
Correct, correct. Other thoughts from the commissioners?
Commissioner Deets, has there been any conversation in the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council from the program, the folks who provide the programming for youth? Has there been any dialogue on that? Do you recall? Or maybe it's forthcoming?
I don't recall that, but Heather might can't check better than I.
There hasn't been. Of course, we last met in March, and there wasn't any at that time, and I haven't heard anything specifically, but they may be affected as well.
Interested to know the program provider's
Yeah, that would
perspective,
be good.
because they're not so much children, but they are in that teen youth, and it'd be interesting to know.
Other thoughts or comments? Well, I'm getting all positive feedback from the board members to move forward with this letter.
Okay.
Any other items, Mr. Adams, on the manager's report?
No, sir, we do have someone signed up for public comment.
All right.
This issue was that something about?
We do have a speaker that signed up, Mr. Dick Darnell, and if you would like to come forward, sir, you can have your 3 minutes to share with us some thoughts.
Thank you for thinking. This is a easy housekeeping kind of thing, but it's of a character of immediacy insofar as we know the tourist season, what have you, starts around May 5th, what have you. Okay, between the Glenville Village and the 3-lane up there are 2 pull-offs. Very great disrepair. I mean, big time disrepair. They need to be repaired. And I don't know if the money on that would be DOT, Duke, or some of the tax money from tourism, which was what, 1.6 million, whatever, this past year. But if they can be fixed to begin with, and I ask that they be asphalted. It's so wonderful this past year that this past year that the 2 boat ramp dock areas up there got big time dealt with. Whoa. And as well, if a 3-inch lay, asphalt-wise, took place on the 2 pullouts, that would just handle matters. They're used greatly by the tourists that come up for a day or so, or visitors, whatever. They're used greatly, as well as being pull-offs for slow boats. As well, in complement to that immediate need, between up where the beach is, on the beach side, between the beach area and the bridge, are pull-off areas also. They need to be worked, and I ask that they be asphalted. They're used greatly. It's all very friendly. There's not a lot of littering that takes place. It's I ask you all to figure that one up. It would be great. I'm not asking for this year for the parking area across from the beach to be paved. That's really handling itself pretty good, very well. At this point, that could be a year or 2 down the road just because of budget, so much every year. But these 3-4 areas I'm giving reference to now can be dealt with. We're still a month and a half out, whatever, before the season starts, and it would just complement our play on. And that's why this time I'm standing here. Did you put forward what I wrote down from that work session a couple sessions ago?
Probably not.
Well, I wrote it down. I forget what it was. I want you to.
Forgot what it was too.
Well, you got your pad somewhere. You got your pad somewhere. It's on there. Okay, thanks. I forget what it was,
Yeah.
but thanks. So that money can be gathered up somehow. You got 3 ways to go, you know. Okay.
Okay, anyone else that'd like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is the new business items. And item 1, and it's sort of a good segue from earlier, talking about Region A. We do have with us tonight Mr. David Garrett, our Workforce Director from Southwest Commission. So, welcome.
Welcome. I'm David Garrett. I work for the Southwestern Commission. Thank you guys for the kind words. And direct the Southwestern Workforce Development Board. So I got a couple of items here. The first is a housekeeping item. Back in 2015, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act became law. And that allowed us to establish or reestablish our consortium of 7 counties. In reviewing that document, there was one section that we felt like the board felt like that needed an update. Make sure that the way we establish who our chief elected official is and the progression from each county needed to be clear on that document. And so on March the 1st, our board, we voted to update that document, and I'm going around to all the commission meetings and asking for a signature to reestablish that consortium under this new update. Right now, our chief elected official is the Honorable Gary Shields from Macon County. His term will end on June the 30th of 2023, and that progression will go to Graham County. So for a 2-year term. And we have that laid out for each county, and that makes sure each county has a turn as our chief elected official, and it's fair, and it's the right thing to do. The second item, back on November 10th, the NC Works Commission, which is a governor's appointed workforce board, they announced a study on possible realignment of the 22, used to be 23 boards, now it's just become 22 boards, possible realignment of those boards. Some of the reasons given are there's some boards that are single county boards. Some of those are in larger areas such as Durham. The reasons would be that they're not aligned with economic development in their regions. The good thing with us is we are aligned directly with the 7 counties through the Council of Governments, the Southwestern Commission, and that is our economic zone. So the study was not really about us, but just to be proactive, our board on March 1st, we voted and adopted a resolution about realignment that we want our region to stay as 7 county, that we don't, very much like the item that was just discussed, we want local control, local decision-making in our region for our workforce, and we want it to stay that way. And so I'm asking you today, I have our document here to recognize that the board has adopted this region, and that Jackson County, or the Commission of Jackson County, recognizes that document. Any questions?
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're at. First of all, we have the articles in here that the board's being asked to vote on. And then is there a second action item?
I don't know if y'all have this, and I can leave this for y'all's review and get a signature later. If y'all decide to do that, that's perfectly fine.
You can put that on the next agenda.
That's perfectly fine.
Now, David,
Yes.
we had a discussion the other night, and Gail and I was kind of, with exactly what was said. I'm forgetful, I know about her. We were talking about, I guess it was this situation, where we're gonna be kind of tied in the land of sky.
It's actually larger. One of the recommendations was a prosperity zone.
All our
Mhm.
ability to make decisions, whatever, and some of the decisions they make, as we all know, but we're not different in this area than maybe Asheville and other places. That's why we are got the status we have.
Yes.
And we need, that's kind of what you're asking to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the recommendations.
We're strong about this. I mean, more and more we're losing our ability to make decisions on the local level. And heck, that's always been the thing, is to do things on the local level, and we don't want this transferred or taken away from us, any of these things.
Agree, totally agree. And one of the recommendations is a prosperity zone. There's 8 prosperity zones in the state of North Carolina. That would bring our region to I believe, 13 county region that would stretch from Murphy to Polk County, McDowell, and just with Asheville being right in the middle, and kind of we understand how that works for us.
So what kind of time frame are we under, for the ratification and approval of these?
On March 30th, the NC Commission made their recommendations. Any movement wouldn't take place until June 30th of 2023. Like I said, we're not a region that they're really looking at. We align with the things that they made recommendations for other regions to look at, whether they be a single county, which we have 6 single county boards in our state, or not aligned with their council of government.
So if we were to take action on this resolution at our next business meeting in April, that still gives us enough time.
Perfectly fine. And as you guys might want to adopt it a different way, I'm bringing our resolution that our board adopted. By all means, I'll share that. If you would like to adopt it in a different way, that we'll work with you on that.
Okay. Well, we can, if you'll give our manager a copy of that resolution,
Sure.
we can tailor that resolution to fit Jackson County, and we'll support y'all in their
Perfect.
endeavors and doing
Thank you
that
so much.
at a future meeting. But we can go ahead with the request that was provided in our agenda packets, which would be to ratify this consortium agreement with the suggested amendments.
Yeah. And that will come into effect with a signature from the chair.
So we've heard the request coming from our Council of Government Region A Workforce Development Board. What's the pleasure of this board concerning these amendments and reauthorization?
I move that, I move that we accept this recommendation and agreement as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? No second. All right. Any question or discussion about what we're voting on? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you,
All
Commissioners.
right. Thank you. Do you have the six? All right.
Thank you so much for what you do. Yeah.
Angie, do you need to do anything? No. Okay. Good, thank you.
So can you send us a signed copy of that? And then we need, if we could get your resolution in Word, and then I can give it to Angie. Word format would be kind of, yes. Thanks.
Okay, next item is item 2 under our new business. This is Forest Hills Municipal Grant Application. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. You have enclosed in your packets an application from Forest Hills. Make sure this is something, I think there was a follow-up, and Commissioner Woody, I believe there are some communications with you with some of the members there, and basically it's a fairly simple application. Let me get it pulled up here. They did miss the deadline for municipal grant application. They did follow up, and they are requesting $5,000 grant from Jackson County, and as you can see, what they're planning on doing is they're looking to use that for landscaping right there at the village entrance, including the corner area that connects the two main arteries of the village, North and South Country Club Drives. They are looking to utilize BH granting to do the work and keep it at the $5,000 limit, but there are no details of what the landscaping would be.
We've heard the request from Forest Hills. This is within our budget for this grant application. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we accept this proposal.
Okay, is there a second?
For discussion, I'll second it.
Okay. All right, now discussion and questions.
It'd be prudent to see a little bit more of a broke down cost of this $5,000 on that entry. It's just it's so clear cut. I don't know if there's a timeline, but it seems like other municipalities did give us a little breakdown on plumbing and electrical and whatever the case. And this is just that full.
What kind of plant, how many plants you're getting and
Exactly. I just feel that
cubic yard of
I'm not against it, and
average
I'm,
of stone or what have you? Yeah, you wanna know what the $5,000 is gonna pay for it.
I do.
Well, and I think you made a good point. My understanding when they talked to me about it, it was Ron Yant and Nullifer Cotier, who are both on the town board for the village of Forest Hills. They said they wanted lighting for this area, for their entrance.
And then also,
Lighting.
I don't know.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Why, I mean, I know Ben, and I like Ben, but why is he the only one on there? Why isn't there like a number of different, why can't Tolly be on there and all of them have what they got, what they're gonna offer for $5,000?
I think, here again, I'm going to speculate because it says we will notify our village landscaping company that they probably have a contract with him to provide that, but I don't know that that's a question we can answer. Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Did they didn't say specifically, because they specifically said to me, is it too late for us to get some lighting? And I said, well, you'll have to talk to, and I think they contacted you then, because I said the deadline's passed.
yeah, they reached out. I've provided them a copy of this, and then this is basically what they presented.
With the business I'm in, if I was to sell somebody, I'll do $5,000 worth of excavation. Is that gonna give me 20 feet into the, is it gonna give you a 60-foot driveway? Is it gonna give you a driveway and a house site? What is it gonna include? He might be coming up with 3 little trees and 4 bags of mulch. I mean, I know Ben's not that way, but you have no idea what you're getting for $5,000. I agree with Mark on
And
this.
there,
Gotta be some type of breakdown.
I think the timing, them being behind the 8 ball a little bit, probably rushed the process.
did.
And
I
I'm
think
not
it did.
I'm comfortable with that. But I think that we ought to give them a little time to and present a little bit more information on how that 5,000 will be spent, a little broken down.
There's a real likelihood that they're going to spend more than that. This would just be part of it.
Yes.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second, but would someone just rather make a motion to table it and then, or you want
Make
to?
that motion to table it for
Yes.
just further
Have a,
information.
is there a second to the motion to table?
Second.
All in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, item tabled. Okay, next is item 3, Cullowhee Fire Department easement request. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. So what I have on screen here before I jump into the actual easement request is I do have an aerial photo. And, obviously this doesn't show the finished here, but just trying to get everybody,
We hope that that's.
just trying to get everybody oriented before I jump into plans and so forth. This is our current Cullowhee SRC. This is the old Cullowhee Fire Department that's been removed. This is the new fire department. Ultimately, if you look, what has occurred when they were constructing, at one point, they had a retention pond down here that was actually holding the runoff for the construction project. That's actually being converted to a sand filter system. It's just basically, it will still handle the runoff. It won't be a retention pond like it is now. And ultimately, it's going to be smaller than it is here. And so what they've run into is this is a very steep bank here. And they've also, that got backfilled with boulders and rocks. And they just feel like first of all, it's just too much. They believe they'll run into too many issues of trying to cut down this bank. And what they're asking is they're asking for an easement. This is county property here. They're asking for an easement to take the pipe down through here, and I'm going to show it to you on a picture on the drawing here a second, and really just bring it on the county property side along. If you scroll here, there's a fence right here, basically on the fire department side of the fence, and just take it through here and take it down to the filter itself. I also got some pictures here just to show you. Aerials and overheads always look larger than they really are. Kind of give you an idea what that really looks like. You know, where I was just pointing, it's going to come down here and it's going to stay on the fire department side. I'm standing in the SRC right here. And so I'm taking a picture. It's just coming here and it's going to be on the fire department side of the fence. And then let me go to the next picture. It'll just come on down and then it'll just flow back here. I don't feel like we ever have a need for that property. I'll go back and show you why. As you can see, the back of our property here is really cut into that bank. We wouldn't want to expand that way because we would be cutting further into the bank. And then the second part is when you go to the aerials, if we were to ever do anything, we would do it. I mean, if we ever had to expand this facility, we would never cut into this bank. We would expand in this open, flat area that's right in the front side of it. So there's not really, I don't think it causes any real issues from the county side. And so now what they're asking is a very similar request that came to us with the steel wells with that previous easement. They're looking to install it, and then they're looking to survey it. Then we would, after it gets surveyed, after it's installed, it gets surveyed, then we can record it as a permanent easement. So what Ms. Baker has done, included in your packets, okay, let me find it. Included in your packets is the proposed easement agreement. And actually, this is just the email, and this would be the attachment that I'll scroll in here a little bit. It gives you a little bit more detail. If you can see, the red line is the proposed easement here. Okay, it's on the inside of the fence there. And then Heather was good. She put together, thought we had it on here. Yeah. The proposed agreement, and I try not to oversimplify things that I know that a lot of work's been put into, but ultimately what it's saying is they can install it. They're installing it on that side of the fence. After it's installed, they're going to survey it, provide us with the survey information so we can record the permanent easement. Is that basically it? Okay. And so the request before the board is to approve off on this easement agreement.
Okay, the request has been put forward to approve this agreement to create an easement for stormwater drain pipe with the Cullowhee Fire Department. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move we grant them that easement, put the line in
Okay,
as we've been shown here.
Second.
motion and a second. Any question or discussion?
Only thing is that probably has nothing to do with this right here, but that bad looking bank down there needs to be fixed.
It looks bad. That's where I go, boys. And it's been like that for years.
You talking about this on the county side right there?
That's been like that for years.
No?
Well, it needs to not be like that for any more years.
Yeah.
All it needs is straw and grass and stuff without.
Hurt the hydro seeder, yeah.
Any other questions or discussion about the easement? Hearing none, then, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Next is item 4, safety discussions.
Yes, sir. So trying not to, at this point, recopy everything that's been presented to the board. What I've pulled up on the screen is the agenda packet that was provided to the board March 10th. And what this is, the reason I put this item on here is I'm not going through all of these items, just refreshing everybody's memory of what was presented to the board in regards to safety requests. And then I'm looking for direction from the board of how you wish to proceed in these conversations. So I'm ready tonight to proceed in multiple directions, but I need guidance from the board. So just as a reminder, we did have Glenville Cashers Rescue Squad come before the board. They ultimately did come and ask for additional funds in their EMS contract to basically provide for additional raises. That was an approximately $289,000 request. They also came and presented before the board a request to proceed forward with the construction of their new rescue facility. That is approximately, it's estimated to be about a $4.1 million request, not to exceed a $4.5 million. But they also requested in that same request, they have expended around $350,000 on grading. Rating. Everything that's been done out there on site, so they also needed that to be reimbursed too. So their real request is 4.1 to 4.5 for a new building and reimbursement for the grading cost of $350,000 for that facility. The grant match request for the fire departments and rescue squads, that's somewhat's already been accomplished. They proceeded forward. They presented information to you about their applications to the state for safety equipment, for personal protective equipment. The next is the Town of Silva operations request, and ultimately, again, I'm just showing you again, this is what was presented to the board. And at the end of the day, I'll scroll down. They did give call volume information, need for paid staff information, things of that nature. But I'll just ultimately scroll down to, bear with me, the ultimate request from the county. It's saying the 1.171, but it's actually, I'll have to go back and show you the budget. That's including some costs that we already have in there. Let me go back and look at her other budget presentation. There we go. 805. Is that right?
Correct.
805, 255. That is the request above and beyond what the county is currently funding. So, Mr. Chairman,
And I think because we're not in a position to make any decisions on this tonight.
correct.
And in fact, I don't even think we're in a position to discuss it tonight. What I would recommend, because I think as a board, we need to, number one, know if we wanted to move forward with some or all or however, what kind of arrangement of these requests, could we afford to, and what could be a way to pay for them? So I think a charge might be to staff to take a look at some options, and we set aside a time at an upcoming work session where we can sit down and see if it is feasible. Are there ways to accomplish this? What would it mean financially? How would it impact our budget? And then that would put the board in a position then to decide whether we want to move forward or not to move forward. Is that fair assessment?
Yep.
So is that something, and I know you and I have had conversations in the last couple of days about we may need to potentially reschedule an upcoming work session. So do we want to talk about that at this point? Because I think that plays into what we're asking for here.
So, I believe the 12th, is it the 12th?
Next week.
Next week, next Tuesday, there are some conflicts, and let me make sure. There are some conflicts with some schedules, so the question would be, can that be rescheduled to the 19th along with our regular scheduled meeting? But Mr. Chairman.
Would anybody have an objection to do that? If we canceled next Tuesday, the 12th, and just look to have, in addition to our regular business meeting on the 19th, which is normally scheduled for 1 o'clock, that day, we would have a work session and what few business items that we would have in that same day. And where this gives staff time to look at numbers, put together some proposals and say, this is what it would cost. This is how you could fund it if you want to do it. Now, do you want to do it? And then we would come back on the 19th and have this discussion.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be out of town on the 12th. We had a trip that's scheduled, and I think the manager also has a conflict. And we don't have any other business on the 12th to really take care of from a work session standpoint that could not wait until the 19th.
The only other items that we have, and I'll go ahead and throw it out to everybody, that, and Darlene, you could use an extra week on this too. Darlene, we always put together at this time, we put together a list of a summary of budget requests to the board. So a list of personnel requests, list of capital requests. It gives you kind of an overview of what requests we are seeing. If you remember, it's just a master summary. And then the other issue is dealing with all of these safety requests. And the final is in regards to a bridge naming, Dillsboro. And those are the only three items that right now that I have scheduled to be on the work session.
Is that
fine with me.
okay, Commissioner
Meet
Dees?
on the 12th, meet on 19th, discuss all this
Correct.
at length.
At length. And that would give our staff time to put all these projections together, and so we can know what we're talking about and more. Does that work for you, Mark?
Yes, sir. Would the projections have also funding sources? Is that part of the?
I would think so. I mean, that we got.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what I would do is I would take these numbers and then I would associate. It's very similar. Let's talk about the fire first. Very similar to what conversations were held with Colorado. So when we start talking about revenues, what I'll do is I'll show you what it would cost if you or what it would take to turn it into a service district, what type of tax rate would be required. This is a little more complicated, actually a little more complicated because we have multiple municipalities involved. I know we think we're just dealing with Silva, but we also have Webster and Dillsboro that contract with this entity to provide services also. And I would be able to provide that information about what it would take for a service tax. I would be able to provide what it would take just from a general fund standpoint. And then we also can look at other service tax opportunities in this conversation. So there will be multiple ways. I think ultimately what has to be discussed too, though, is I'll come with revenue sources and how to fund it. Is obviously the first thing this board's got to decide is I guess it could be simultaneous, is do you agree and wish to move forward with these requests? And then myself and Darlene will show up with multiple ways on how to fund it. Basically looking at either general fund dollars or service tax dollars. That's what it really comes down to.
And then we can make an intelligent decision based on whether or not we can afford to do it or want to do it, based on what the options are. Does that work with your schedule, Tom?
Yes, sir.
I think everybody says it's
Great idea.
So we'll take next Tuesday off.
Okay.
Do we need to, I guess, officially vote to cancel that meeting, or do we want to just?
I guess you'd cancel and then reschedule. Is that we're gonna have a work session before the regular meeting, or put it on the regular meeting agenda? You understand? We're
Yeah.
talking about bringing it up on the 19th, which is a regular meeting, and I believe that starts at 1 p.m. So
We could just bring it up on the agenda that day.
okay, so we'll start at 1 p.m. on
Does
that
that
day.
work for everybody?
Sure.
Like our normal schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So then you do need to vote to cancel.
Well, do I have a motion then to cancel the April 12th work session?
Yes, I make a motion that we cancel the meeting on the 12th.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Woody.
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds.
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. All right. Next is old business. Item 5, we do have a final offer for Lot C. This is found on Big Ridge. I think Ms. Baker, our attorney, is going to walk us through this final offer. That sounds like a game show almost.
It does. Yeah, if I can see this.
Is this your final offer?
I've been feeling like that a lot on all these properties.
There've been several big upset bids.
Yes, yes, there was 30, it is good.
Commissioner Deets really came up with this idea about advertising it like this, and it really worked well.
But there's 32 lots, I think, and we're close to finalizing maybe 15 of them. So there's still a group that's in the upset bid period. But this is one of the 8 that were originally offered from Coblant LLC. The original offer on this that you accepted was $3,000. This went through the upset bid process. Every time there's an upset bid, we have to re-advertise it in the paper. And so I had 2 going back and forth for a while, and then all of a sudden, this one came in with the last advertisement, and it was for $6,000, and no one bid again. So it really doubled the offer on this one. And Commissioner Jones, I know you like to be reminded of the assessed value, and it is $30,000 on this particular lot. It's one of those big rich Hampton Springs lots. So it's good to get this one sold for $6,000. But this is the final offer, and if you accept it, they're ready to close.
What's the pleasure of the board concerning this final offer?
Make a motion to approve,
Okay.
accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Deets? Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling? Yes. Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Then that brings us down to our appointment section. We do have 2 items on the agenda, but I would like to ask that I put forward a motion to table items 6 and 7. I do want to follow up with a phone call on both of those, and then we'll take them up at our next business meeting, which I believe now we talked about is going to be combined with this work session. But I'd put forward a motion to table these 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion?
Yes. Sorry, David, had to wait so long.
Absolutely. But we're going to take care of it this month. I promise you that. Absolutely.
Did you enjoy this?
Think you know.
I think you know.
Yeah. We appreciate you being here, David. Thank you very much. We're going to get this one taken care of, I promise. Madam Clerk, if you would just call the roll on that as well.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deets? Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. And we do have need for closed session concerning economic development business expansion under GS 143-318-11A4. Do I have a motion to go into closed session concerning those?
So move.
All right, have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll take a Action was taken in closed session except for approval of the minutes. And with that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Could I make one announcement or reminder?
Yes, you may.
I'm sorry. Okay,
As long as you promise to make a motion to adjourn after.
I will. Just to remind people that this Thursday at 3:30, there's a dedication of a wake, and it's in honor of Phil Hare, who has been, a representative for us and an amazing community advocate for all of us. And then at 10 a.m. Friday, SCC Health Sciences Building grand opening. And I move that we adjourn.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.